Hello everybody. If you've been paying any attention whatsoever to the automotive world of late, you've probably noticed the fact that Toyota have announced a new Yaris, the GR4. Now, as a big fan of the previous Yaris GR-MN and an owner of a Celica GT4, this is very exciting news. That little Yaris looks absolutely stunning. It's a proper piece of kit, and the kind of car that I think most of us probably never expected to see again. After all, the homologation special is the kind of thing that we had lots of in the 80s and 90s, but these days, most manufacturers just aren't bothering. Now, at the time of filming, most of the key specs of the car have been released, but not yet the price. But they have said it's not going to be a limited edition run like the GR-MN was, so who knows? But there is something about all of this which I find incredibly exciting, and very few, if any, people seem to be talking about it. You see, the GR-MN was a great car, but it was certainly flawed in a few ways and didn't always get the reception that I think it deserved. Now, I haven't driven the new GR4, I haven't been invited to do so by Toyota. I'd love to at some point, but anyway, at some point I hope I get to drive one, but I have this sneaking suspicion it's going to be pretty amazing. Toyota are pretty dedicated when it comes to these kind of passion projects of theirs. But this important fact that everyone's overlooking, quite a simple one. Toyota listen. They took on board all the feedback about the old GR-MN and they went to town. Now, I don't know the exact timeline of events, and we probably won't, because you see, these cars in the background can often take a while. This may have been part of the plan since day one, or this may have been a more recent development. But a project like this requires some pretty serious investment from the likes of Toyota. This is not something they can just cobble together. I mean, look at it. It's basically two cars in one, so you can get a trick suspension at the back, a really advanced four-wheel drive system that I don't think any competitor in this segment has, and, well, it's just a very serious piece of engineering, far above what the old GR-MN was, which was essentially the best they could do with a standard Yaris body shell. What this means is that for all the people that have criticised the recent Supra, I suspect Toyota are paying attention to that as well. One piece of news that I saw announced recently, which I think maybe we want to keep an eye on, is the fact that the new M4 and M3 are going to get an engine called the S58. Now, if you're not familiar with how BMW does their engines and things, the B58 is the engine that was in stuff like the M140, the 440, and critically, the Supra and Z4. At the time, the M2 competition, the M3, the M4, had a different engine called the S55, because BMW use S designations for their M division motors. The B58 is a very, very good engine, but it's not an M engine. However, the new M3 and M4 are going to use a version of the B58 to be called the S58. There's a few significant changes internally to it. It's largely the same looking thing, but it's not going to be the same engine. Now, this is important because with it being based on ultimately the same block, that means it will fit in a Supra and a Z4 quite easily. So I think it's now very likely that we may see the return of the Z4M, and if that happens, you can almost certainly expect to see a Supra with a much hotter engine than it currently has from the factory, because they are built at the same factory as Magna Steyr in Austria, build both the Z4 and the Supra, which basically everybody knows. And I think this is pretty cool, and what I really truly hope is that Toyota's kind of boldness in doing stuff like the new Yaris GR4, and Toyota have occasionally been quite a conservative company, and things haven't always been brilliant for the Japanese, but I think them kind of just not so much dipping their toe in the water, more as diving head first. I hope that's going to inspire some of their rivals to do something similarly nutty, because you know what? Right about now, the car industry does need a bit more excitement.